Chapter 7, Law and Order. California was a lawless place during the gold rush years. The earlier gold strikes in Georgia and North Carolina had been more orderly. They both were already states when gold was found, with laws, courts, and police to control crime. California didn't become a state until about 2.5 years after gold was discovered at Sutter's sawmill. Before statehood, mining camps came up with basic rules to keep things fair. A man named James Hutchings published a list of rules in a newspaper. It was called The Miners' 10 Commandments. The list included good advice like, don't stake more than one claim at a time, don't steal another's claim, and don't gamble away your gold. In the early days of the gold rush, there wasn't much crime. Most people followed an honor system. A miner could safely leave his gold in his tent. It probably wouldn't get stolen. But as more people came, the camps got crowded. Things changed. It wasn't as easy to find gold. There was more competition. Some miners got worried and greedy. Their families back home were counting on them to strike it rich. So they stopped following the rules. If they got really desperate, they might cheat, steal, or kill for gold. When a fellow miner wasn't around, they'd prospect his claim. This was called claim jumping. It was one of the most serious crimes. Not all trouble in the camps was caused by miners. Criminals also came west. In California, no one knew about their pasts. They'd start committing crimes all over again. The camps got more and more dangerous. At first, most claims had been along the rivers. When those were taken, prospectors moved into the mountains. Now they were far away from the busy camps. There was no one to help if a miner was robbed or attacked. Prospectors took the law into their own hands. They decided among themselves whether someone was guilty of a crime. There was usually no trial. If there was, it was quick and unfair. Rule breakers were treated harshly. The softest punishment was banishment from the camp. Worst punishments included whipping, branding, or cutting off an ear. Worst of all was death by hanging. There were many hangings in Hangtown. That is how the camp got its name. As time went on, the miners who hadn't found much gold got angry and frustrated. They blamed miners who came from other countries. They thought it wasn't fair for foreigners to be allowed to prospect in the United States. Only U.S. citizens should be allowed to hunt for gold, they said. Their protests resulted in the foreign miners' tax in 1850. Miners who came from outside the United States now had to pay a lot of money for licenses. In 1848, there were 3 people from China in California. By 1852, there were about 20,000. They called California Gumshan, which meant Gold Mountain. Chinese miners worked hard. They were good at their jobs, but they were treated unfairly. In some places, Chinese were only allowed to mine abandoned claims. These were worthless mines others had given up on. Even so, Chinese workers still often managed to find gold in them. Native American tribes were angry at miners. Who could blame them? The Nisenan, Maidu, Miwok, Yokuts, and Pomo tribes had lived in California's gold country for 1,000 years before gold brought a rush of people west. The tribes didn't like how they and their land were being treated. For instance, newcomers shot buffalo for their hides, or just for fun. Prospectors didn't take good care of the land. They did whatever they had to do to reach gold. Sometimes they built dams. This dried up some rivers. Their digging muddied the streams. The sun could no longer reach plants and animals that lived in the water. Fish died. Water became polluted. Natural habitats were being wrecked. Native Americans depended on the land for food and water. Now many went hungry. They raided miners' supply wagons to keep from starving. Angry miners burned their villages, sometimes killing them. But even more Native Americans died from the new diseases miners had brought west, such as smallpox, cholera, dysentery, and measles. Although California became a state on September 9, 1850, law and order came slowly. Bandits, criminal gangs, and murderers would roam its mining camps, hills, and towns for years to come. pictures. Top picture shows miners posing with their tools, rockers, wheelbarrows, picks, shovels, pans. The bottom left picture is James Marshall, and the bottom right picture is John Sutter. Top picture is group of miners. Bottom picture is John Sutter's letters sharing news of the gold rush. Top picture shows miners relaxing at a saloon. Bottom picture shows miners at work. Top picture shows Sunday morning as they're relaxing. Bottom picture shows scenes of what miners might have done on Sundays. This picture is an 1849 advertisement listing prices for passage to San Francisco. Steerage passage was $75. Cabin passage was $150. Ditto out and home, $200. Ditto with board while there, $250. Top picture is miner posing with pick. Bottom picture is one of the first how-to books for miners. This picture says an advertisement for passage to California. California and the Gold Region Direct. Top picture is sheet music cover for a song about the miners. Bottom picture is a title page of an 1849 travel guide to Oregon and California. Top picture is one of the earliest photographs to show Chinese miners. Bottom picture is James Marshall at Sutter's sawmill. This picture is hoisting wheel used to remove material from a mine. Top picture is a rare photograph of a woman during the gold rush. Bottom picture is an African American miner. Top picture is home to immigrants. Telegraph Hill, San Francisco during the gold rush. The bottom left-hand picture is a coin featuring a 49er. And then the bottom right picture is gold nugget believed to be the first piece of gold found at Sutter's sawmill. The Miners' 10 Commandments. An 1850 photograph of the San Francisco harbor. Top picture is San Francisco newspaper announcing gold found. And then bottom picture is James Marshall's sketch mapping the gold discovery site. Native American reservations. In the 1830s, the U.S. government forced tribes of Native Americans in the East, such as the Choctaw, Chickasaw, Seminole Creek, and Cherokee, to move west of the Mississippi River. Thousands of Native Americans died on the long trip west to the Great Plains. 20 years later, the California Gold Rush brought many new prospectors and settlers west of the Mississippi River. They took over the land where Native Americans from the east had been sent. They also moved onto land where Native Americans in the west had lived for centuries. In 1851, the U.S. government decided to create areas of land called reservations. They made Native Americans move from their homelands onto these reservations. Today, there are about 300 such reservations in the United States.